Hey guys, it's me Astrid, and before I get started with my video today, I just wanted to take the time to thank people for voting for my friend in that contest last month in July. So I'd like to thank MissOrchidGirl, Orchids into Dutchy, Andrew Fan, Elona Hartjes, Janari Rahu, EC91001, Scrap Angie 88 Angie'sLife, and Jean Andrews. Thank you all so much for voting for my friend. I really appreciate it, and it was really awesome of you guys to take the time to do that, so thank you. Gosh, I have a little froggy throat. Now let's get started on my video today. So today I wanted to talk to you guys about how to beat the heat with your orchids, because orchids can definitely suffer in the heat, and I wanted to discuss some symptoms of that and some ways of fixing the problem in your home and hopefully preventing your orchids from suffering too much damage when there is a heat wave. Now lately it's been up to 38 to 40 degrees Celsius at my house, aka about 100 and some degrees Fahrenheit, which is really awful, and because of that I've had to take some measures to take care of my orchids. Let's talk about symptoms of overheating. Now sometimes your orchids, if they get too hot, they can get burns on the leaves. Now this is an example actually of a sunburn, but the same can happen if your orchid leaf gets much too hot and it's sunny, you can get a burn like this. However, this is a really severe one that happened as winter turned to spring and my plant had not seen good sunshine for many months. So this is kind of an extreme case. Other orchids may get wilty leaves. Some orchids may have leaves die that weren't ready, although this is the time of year when Phalaenopsis seem to shed leaves, so I'm not worried about that, but maybe some leaves can wilt. And the worst thing of all that happens in the heat, in my opinion, is that your flowers just get so fucked up. It's awful. Now, during this summer, I've bought a number of Phalaenopsis orchids. You might remember my Phalaenopsis World Class, my Phalaenopsis Magical Girl, my Phalaenopsis Sogo Staff, Golden Staff, and several others that have just suffered, and their flowers just wilted and dropped like flies. It was horrible. Here we have my Cattleya. This one smells like sunscreen, and she suffered some damage from the heat before I got wise and put up my fan. And this Dendrobium as well. Its buds are doing fine, but it's dropped flowers all the way up here, and it will bloom flowers and then drop them, wilt them like the next day because of the heat, and it's really not doing well. This one I took measures to protect from the heat, and it's doing very well. So let's talk about these quick and simple ways to help your orchids beat the heat, and we'll wrap up the video. So method number one, obviously, is to set up a fan. This is a little tiny fan that's been blowing on the orchids that are getting the most sunshine, and it has made a huge difference in the orchids, as you can see from this Dendrobium to this one, because I got this one a bit later and I already had the fan going. That's a major way of helping your orchids beat the heat. The next way is to increase your watering frequency. You need to water your plants more often so they don't get as wilty, and if you keep water kind of maybe in a tray at the base, or if you mist them often, it will actually help the humidity stay up, which also helps with the heat. And lastly, if it gets just too hot, ridiculously hot one day or 2 days, I take my orchids all off the shelf and I put them down here, and I just close my blinds and shut up the house, because it's better to deny your orchids sunshine for a day than it is to allow them to cook in that hot sun for a day. It's really terrible on them. So yeah, these are just really simple ways to beat the heat. If you guys have any other tips on how to help your orchids survive through hot weather when they're not necessarily orchids that enjoy heat, let me know. And just remember, orchids are actually pretty tough plants. They can survive temperatures probably surprisingly lower than we would expect. Many of them can, and they can survive temperatures a lot hotter than we would expect. Again, many of them, not all. So trust your orchids to do well, but know you might lose some flowers or have some little damage come up if you let your orchids sit in the sunshine too long when they're not ready, or if you allow them to experience too much heat. I hope this video was helpful. Happy growing, guys. Bye.